Hello, my name is Justin Villery. I work with an organization called the Committee of 70. It's a good government, nonpartisan nonprofit based out of Philadelphia, and we work around the state to try to make sure that government is accountable and reflective of the needs of Philadelphians and Pennsylvanians. And one of those projects that we do is called Draw the Lines PA, and so that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. Draw the Lines is, again, a nonpartisan nonprofit project around the issue of redistricting and gerrymandering. And so I've got some slides that I'm going to share. We're going to spend about 20 minutes on the background of redistricting, what it is, how it influences your life. And then we're going to sign up for an actual mapping demo in which you can create your own voting districts and how that would impact the state of Pennsylvania in 2021 when we actually draw these lines again for real. So I am going to share my screen and you will be able to see just some background slides here. Let's get started. Okay, so again, draw the lines. Feel free to follow us on social. We've got a lot of neat stuff that is going to be highly relevant both in the next week and over the next year as we discuss elections in the US. So the way we like to start these discussions out is asking you all what issue or issues matter to you. If any of you are 18 and this will be your first election, we want you to think, right now you can do this at your desk. I guess if you're joining us virtually, you can do it at home. What issues are going to be driving you to the polls? If you aren't going to be a voter yet in 2020, what issues, when you do vote for the first time, what issues are going to matter to you? And so, we hear this a lot in communities across Pennsylvania. People are focused on healthcare, they're focused on climate change, they're focused on gun rights or gun violence prevention, however you want to term that. Immigration, criminal justice reform, taxes. There's a lot of different issues that drive people to the polls. And what we found is most people are not happy with what they're getting out of their government, either on the state level in Harrisburg or on the federal level in Washington. And they have different ideas for solutions to what they would want to see out of those issues to solve the problems that impact their life. And so those solutions might be small, on the family level. They might be on the community level where you find a solution to that issue, or maybe private markets or industry might be able to attack that problem. But generally, government is going to be involved somehow. Government, either in the state or federal level, is really the only entity that's big enough to adopt the kind of risk or to spend the kind of money that can address major systemic challenges that our country faces. We're seeing that right now with the pandemic, and relatively ineffective government response has been what's caused several 100,000 people to die through this pandemic through October. So it's important to note, particularly as you go to the polls on November 3rd, or if you've already voted, that government's influenced by politics. And so your vote matters. The people that you vote for will be the ones who implement the policies that you either like or don't like in government. And so it's terribly important to understand both that your vote matters and how your vote is influenced by what we're going to be talking about today with redistricting. So something else big is happening this year besides the election. It's actually just finishing up. And it's hugely important to our democracy, not just this year, but for the next 10 years. And that is the United States Census. So the census is a thing that's done every 10 years in the United States, where our government counts everyone who is living in the United States, whether you're a citizen or not a citizen. And that data all goes into a file that is used by government, it's used by politicians, like we'll be talking about today, and it's used by private industry too. Marketing firms, companies, they use this data to determine, who are we going to sell our products to, where are we going to put our business, what demographics do we need to consider for people who are consuming our goods. And so the census is hugely important. All that data also helps government determine how it's going to allocate its resources. And it also determines how the lines that we are talking about here for elections and voting, how they're going to be drawn. You can see on the map in my background, if you can see that, the lines that create the districts that determine how we are voting are determined by the census, among other things. So what we're talking about today, what is redistricting? A basic definition of redistricting is the process by which we redraw voting districts every 10 years after the census. And that's done to reflect the population changes that occur throughout a state and throughout the country. So between 2010, when we did our last census, in 2020, the state of Pennsylvania's population has changed pretty dramatically. We've had people die, we've had new people born, people have moved either into the state or out of the state. And so every 10 years, in our Constitution, it says that we will try to just take account of where those people are. And then the way we demonstrate those lines, and there was a slide that got skipped over earlier for some technical reasons, but I do want to show that if we can. It's not letting me. But if we were looking at why is it not coming up? I don't know. But if we were looking at a map of the United States, what we could do is if you'll excuse just one quick States U.S. House map. All right, so we can look at it. It's not coming through on Google. We can at least see here what I'm talking about. So all these lines, this is a map here of the 2018 congressional race from 2 years ago. And the red are states that Republicans won. The blue are states that Democrats won. And you can see that every state is broken up into different districts. And those districts have the same number of people in them in each state. So Pennsylvania's districts have roughly, I think, 707,000 people in them in each of Pennsylvania's districts here, as you can see over here. The other states might have slightly different numbers, but they're all right around that total. And so where these lines fall in each district really determines who is electing or who we elect to represent us in office. So they're terribly important. Let's go back to our slides after that impromptu detour and reconnect with redistricting. So, like we said, redistricting is the process by which we redraw those lines to reflect the population changes that have occurred. So we're redrawing maps for both the U.S. House and the the Pennsylvania State Legislature. So that includes the Pennsylvania State House and the Pennsylvania State Senate. So we are going to be redrawing in 2021. This happens the year after the census. We're going to be redrawing 3 maps, both for U.S. House and then for PA State and PA Senate. So the difference between redistricting and gerrymandering then is gerrymandering is what happens when politicians or parties influence the way these lines are drawn to protect their own interests and hurt their opponents. So one analogy that we like to use in conversations like this is that an election is really nothing more than a job interview, right? The political candidates are the job candidates, and they are coming to voters who are the bosses of our democracy in this analogy. If you're a voter, you are choosing who is going to represent you. And so they are asking you for a job, these political candidates are. In what other industry that you're aware of, some of you I'm sure have interviewed for jobs before, in what other industry that you're aware of is the job candidate, the future employee, able to go to their future boss and say, that interview that we're doing next week, I don't want to do it at your place, I want to do it at my house. And these are the questions that you're allowed to ask me. These are the other candidates that you're allowed to interview. And here's the setting in which I want this interview to take place. And so that obviously would never happen in any other industry, but that's what happens in politics, is because the political candidates are the ones who can basically set the framework of how the election is done by the way they draw these political boundaries on a map. They can pick their voters in a way that makes their seat safe for them and hurts their political opponents. to protect themselves from any sort of electoral defeat. So that last sentence there is important. This prevents fair elections because then voters aren't the bosses of the democracy like they should be. So that's our background. It's helpful to look at an actual map here. This is the map that was put in place in Pennsylvania, our congressional map in 2011 after the 2010 census. So this map was in force for 3 election cycles, 2012, 2014, and 2016. It was eventually thrown out as an unconstitutional partisan gerrymander by the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court in 2018. And that was because, as you can see, we take a district by district look at a few of these. You can see how gerrymandered they were. District 12 out near Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette called this one the malnourished hammerhead shark. You can see where it gets emaciated right around Pittsburgh. And then the hammerhead near Johnstown up into Cambria and Somerset counties. And so that was drawn to protect a Republican politician, a Republican incumbent, to pull together Republican-leaning voting groups in Beaver County and then kind of in central PA, while skirting around more Democratic-leaning voters in Allegheny County. And if you move a little further east, you'll see kind of a Pac-Man looking district, I guess, here that has to surround the malnourished hammerhead shark. And so that creates kind of a gerrymander as well, where you've got very awkwardly shaped districts that become difficult for a representative to represent in office too. This doesn't just hurt voters. As we move to the northeast, you can see this was a district that was meant to pack a number of Democrats and people of color into a single district. So Scranton and Wilkes-Barre, traditionally Democratic strongholds, connected down to Easton in the Lehigh Valley, and then moved over into a somewhat large minority community over in Pottsville in Schuylkill County. And so this was done to protect Republican incumbents in the districts surrounding District 17 here, like District 10, 11, 15, 8. So that's a gerrymander there as well. And then, of course, the most famous one, this is a nationally known gerrymander district called Goofy Kicking Donald Duck. You can see Goofy here on the right side, giving the foot to Donald's rear end. The neck connecting Goofy's head to the rest of his body is actually a parking lot to a seafood and steakhouse. If you've ever been out to the King of Prussia Mall, it's right in that area off 422 and 76. And so that was, just a strip of 50 yards connects the two districts, or that district's 2 pieces together. So it's a little absurdly shaped there, but that's why this map was overturned by the courts as a partisan gerrymander. So a really quick overview of, how would you gerrymander if you were a political operative? It's helpful to know. And then, of course, knowing how it's done, you can help avoid it as you're drawing your own map. There are 2 terms that are important to know. They're cracking and packing. So the goal, if you're gerrymandering, is you want to crack your opponents up. You want to pack your opponents into as few districts as possible and have them win a ton of votes in just those few districts. And then you want to crack the rest of them. So then you're winning a larger number of seats by fewer votes. So the terminology is called a wasted vote. If your opponents are winning 2 or 3 seats by a 90 to 10% margin, then they're wasting a lot of votes because they don't need to win 90 to 10. You just need to win 51-49, right? And so you want your opponents to win maybe 2 or 3 seats, 90 to 10. And then you want to win the rest of them, 7, 8, 9, 10 seats, maybe 55-45, 60-40. The goal is to crack them up among the rest of those districts, your opponents, so that you can win those a larger number of seats with a smaller margin. So you can see this scatter plot. We can look at Green Party voters versus Purple Party voters. This is the same scatter plot replicated twice to show what it would look like if the Green Party had a majority versus the Purple Party controlled how to draw the maps. So there's 29 districts voters for each party in these plots here. And so if the Green was in charge, what they would be incentivized to do under this is to pack all the purple party voters that they could into one single district, right in the middle of that circle, and then crack the rest of them throughout the rest of the state. And so they could win 5 seats and purple would only win 1, even though they're the same number of voters overall in that state. If purple is in charge, they drew straight lines through, they could actually advantage it to themselves by winning 4 districts where Green would only win 2. And so really, again, where you draw these lines has a huge impact on the results of an election. And as you can see, with the parties being so different as they are now, it has a major, major impact on the policies that matter to you and to your family. So that said, we like to, if we were in person, we'd do this worksheet together. And I can make sure that your teachers have this if you'd like to do this. This is just another exercise on showing how you would gerrymander. So in District 1, the goal would be to, you're creating 3 districts. And while the Green voters have a majority in this simulation, they have 5 votes compared to 4 for yellow. If we're drawing 3 districts of 3, then you can see that if you pack all of the Green, as many Green voters as possible into that middle district there, then you can have 3 districts, or 2 districts where yellow wins 2-1 and gains a majority, even though they have a minority of voters. Same thing, District 2, what you do is you'd pack these, if you're, or State 2, you're creating 4 districts, each with 3 dots. You would try to crack your Green party among 3 districts and then pack them all into that 4th district, so that even though there's the same number of voters, yellow wins 3 of the 4 districts. State 4 is the hardest one. Here we changed it so that you've got 6 voters per district for only 3 districts. And what you would do is you'd try to pack those 6 Green party voters into this one district and then crack the remainder of those voters among the other 2 districts, so that yellow, even though they're in the minority 10-8, they earn a majority of votes. So when we do this with schools that have large communities of color, a lot of them realize that they're the ones who are often cracked and packed by politicians who are doing this. Those who have marginalized voices in this in our society are often the ones that are taken advantage of and packed together in these districts and then cracked to advantage the surrounding communities. So it's just something to keep in mind. It's important to note that this is not one part or the other that does this. Both parties do this. In Pennsylvania, it was the Republican Party that did this really effectively in Pennsylvania in 2011. But if we go just 50 miles south into Maryland, you can see that Democrats are the ones who did this really, really well. In Maryland, they had 7 congressional seats, 5 of which were controlled by Democrats through the aughts, and then into the 2010s. Democrats got greedy and wanted a 6th seat. And so they redrew this district around Baltimore to be what the Washington Post called the praying mantis district. And I don't see a praying mantis, but I don't see anything in that. That's a really crazy shape. And you can see there's just no rhyme or reason for why that district would exist in any coherent form. Makes it very difficult to have a community of interest that would represent what you want. So this is a practice that's been going on since the 1800s, and where gerrymandering gets its name is from an old politician named Elbridge Gerry. And so a political cartoon from Massachusetts in the 1800s coined the term. It's since become gerrymandering. But what's really weaponized it over the last 10 years has been the prevalence of big tech and big data. So when you're online, there is a data footprint that you leave with everything that you do, the websites you visit, the apps that you download, the social media posts that you interact with. All that stuff is public information and can be bought, particularly by political campaigns. and the parties, and then they take that data and they upload it, all this consumer data, what kind of car do you drive, where you live, et cetera, and all that creates an index score that goes down to the block level. Basically your block, like how likely is your block going to be to vote for the Republican or the Democrat or somebody else. And then they take all that info, put it into these high-power mapping platforms, and then they can draw these maps that create these really, really precise districts that look just like this, because they want, they like what you're about. They like the apps that you use and the social media posts that you've made. They think, all right, you're my kind of voter. I'm going to put you in my district, but you over there, you're a member of this organization that I don't like at all. I'm going to put you into this other district, so I don't have to worry about you voting against me. And so that's what happens with gerrymandering. And that's why it's gotten so bad, is the prevalence of these platforms and data that allow politicians to do this. So the impacts of gerrymandering, it locks in results, makes it so that nobody can challenge these politicians, because the elections are really kind of predetermined, right? And it also creates a system where the general election is no longer important, where you've got a Republican and a Democrat battling it out for voters. What really matters now is if these results are locked in, the primaries become what's most important, and so you get very, very liberal Democrats challenging other Democrats, and then very, very, very conservative Republicans challenging other Republicans, and it drives the parties further and further apart. And so while that might be fine for some districts, it's not really fine for the entire country, because there's nobody in the middle to facilitate any compromise. And you just get that hyper partisanship and gridlock in which nothing gets done. And that's kind of what we've seen in recent history in Washington and in Harrisburg, which leaves voters feeling very frustrated, and that government is not responsive to them at all. And that's what leads to corruption and just this downward spiral where we feel like we're losing grip of our democracy. So gerrymandering is one of the primary causes, not the only cause, but it's definitely one of the primary concerns that people have about why government's not working for them. So, and it gives you the feeling that your vote just doesn't count. So what are we about? Draw the Lines is here to try to bring this type of data and tech to individuals like you, so that you can draw your own maps and have a say on the process in 2021 when these maps are drawn. We've worked with about 6,000 people over the last couple of years, and a large majority of them are students. And so our goal is to connect you all with this topic in a fun way in which you can have your say. And among those is with the Draw Lines mapping competition. So you can draw your own maps and be part of the practice in 2021. And how you do it is you get some repetitions in here with drawing your own maps for our competition. We're going to have a deadline in the spring, most likely. So you'll have plenty of time to do this. We break everything out. So you all would be in the youth or student division. And then we've got some fairly significant prizes, upwards of a couple $1,000 for folks who are drawing their map. So we're not advancing one particular type of map. And that's the way we judge the competition, is by how effectively you accomplish the goals that you want to, that you set out to achieve. And then we try to get you to share your map with your legislator and your local media too, to bring more people into this. I don't think we quite have enough time for this stuff, but on our website, just look up Amanda Holt. She's got a fantastic story. We've got a great video for her talking about how she made a difference in 2011 around this. And she's kind of the inspiration for this project. And then if you're really interested, the Citizen Map Corps is a group of people that we're engaging in this to help have a say in this process in 2021 around making sure that the maps are drawn fairly and transparently. We're aiming for diverse representation, both racially, by gender, by geography, by political ideology, just anyone who's interested in mapping, interested in good government, interested in politics. If you draw a map and you're interested in getting involved further, these are some of the things that the Map Corps is going to be doing in 2021 to help advance just a fair and transparent map drawing process. The top acronym there is the bill that is in the state legislature will be reintroduced again next winter to try to create some guidelines on the process. So lots of neat stuff there. We'd love to have you involved too. Now, I do want to take a moment. At some point, you all can pause this if you need to do an exercise that is really important to the first step of drawing a map. And this is called the flashes of insight exercise. And so what we normally do in person is we would pass out these cards so that everyone can have their own. And then you would think about what values would you want to see in your map. Some of these are required by the Constitution. Some of these are required by law. And some of them aren't necessarily required, but are just considered good practice. And so what we like to do is think about, what goals would you want to achieve with your redistricting map if you were the one who was drawing the lines. And so we ask everybody to rank order 1, 2, 3, 4, however many you want to include values that matter to you. And then we would come back and discuss, all the different ways that people could draw a map. We have these on our website, and each card on the back of it has a description for what it means. So I would encourage you to go check that out and view if you have any questions about what these are. A lot of them I think are self-explanatory. I'll note equal population just means the total number of people in a district. It would be the same. Communities of interest would be the idea that people within a particular community could be, the Lehigh Valley, could be shale oil country, could be the Mon Valley, could be Amish country near Lancaster. Just somebody or a group of people that have like shared interests or identities that they would want to be represented by a single person in the legislature. So some of these other ones fairly self-explanatory. But if you need to, go ahead and stop this or pause it and have a 2 or 3 minute brainstorming session by yourself where you can think about what values matter to you. If you don't want to pause it, then we can move on. The 2 lessons that we really take away from this are, first off, there's no one perfect way to draw these maps. Everybody is going to have a different set of goals that they want to accomplish. Again, some of them are in the state constitution, some of them are in federal law or case law, but usually there's some broad agreement that you don't want parties to be advantaging themselves at the expense of voters, and to a somewhat lesser degree, you don't want to protect incumbents beyond anything that's reasonable. But otherwise, the rest of this is, it's very much up to the eye of the beholder. So that's important to note. The second piece is that some of these values require trade-offs. If you want to have competitive elections, you might not have a very compact district, right? Because you've got to maybe take your urban core that has a lot of Democrats and go reach out into a more rural or suburban area that has more Republicans and put those 2 communities together to have a competitive district. That might create a district that's not very compact, or might split multiple counties or municipalities. So just think about those trade-offs that you have to have. And the goal, hopefully, is to find, some balance that people can agree upon is good for Pennsylvania. Now, how much time we got here? We've got some time. So I do want to show you our mapping platform. And this is called DistrictBuilder. We're going to do a quick little demo. I'm going to skip over this. Yeah, let's escape out of this and go into, if you've got the ability to do this either at your computer at school or at home, then please do this and follow along as I do this. Go to drawthelinespa.org and then go on to the Draw a Map page here. We've got a lot of resources. You can see previous contest winners, et cetera, see more info about the Citizen Map Corps. We're going to go to the Draw a Map page right here. Click on that, and then you can see all the background details. Here is where you could do the flashes of insight exercise. You can see all the cards and their descriptions. Check that out. You can see our user guide. You can see the competition rules. We're just going to go right into drawing a map for today. So your previous cohorts who have done this have used an older version of DistrictBuilder. Our developers have actually moved over to a new version, which is very exciting. It's much more user-friendly. and responsive and faster, which is big. And so we are hosting signups on our website here. So you'll just go onto this form and then fill out some of these forms, and then you'll get a custom link. Fill out some of these fields. Then once you do that, click submit, and you will get a custom link to join the new DistrictBuilder platform that's specific to draw the line. So just take a few minutes to get signed up there. This is again from our draw map page. I'll go back and show you again. So from this page, draw a map here, click on the draw your map right here in this upper ribbon, or you can click on the, yes, I've done the steps and I'm ready in the red box. Either one will take you exactly where you need to go. So you come to the instructions, just read those and then fill out the form to get your custom link to DistrictBuilder. This is all free, by the way. There's no cost to this at all. And eventually you'll get your custom link. I'm going to go into the generic one here. Signed in, and now you can see. So once you're on DistrictBuilder, I want to just give you a quick, with the time we have left, give you a quick demo of how to draw your own map. And so these are ones that I've started. I'm going to click on new map, just give it a name. Let's just do demo date. And then you can see they've got multiple states up. We are going to focus on Pennsylvania. They hope to have all 50, I think, by the time maps are being drawn next spring. So that'll be pretty cool if you're not from Pennsylvania and you want to map another state too. We're going to focus on Pennsylvania though. Click on that, and then you can draw any number of districts. You can do 18 seats. That's the number that are currently in the Pennsylvania delegation of the U.S. House. You can do Pennsylvania State Senate map, 50 seats. You can do Pennsylvania State House map if you are a real masochist and you want to do 203 districts to yourself, then have at it. We've had a number of people who've done that and won some money on our state legislative competition, which is awesome. Or you can do a custom number. We're going to do custom actually, because we are anticipating that Pennsylvania is only going to have 17 districts in the next round. Our state is growing at a slower rate than other states, and so we are almost certainly going to lose at least a seat to a state like California or Texas or Florida, Colorado, some of those Sunbelt states or Western states that are picking populations up at the expense of places like New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, et cetera. So we're going to do 17 and then just click create a map. And that will populate a map of Pennsylvania for you. That will come up showing all of Pennsylvania's 67 counties. So each district here is on the left side. You can see there's nobody in any of these districts. And so what we're going to do is I'm just going to click on District 1, and I'm going to start in the upper northwest corner with Erie. And so we've got District 1 selected, and then I can either using these point and click tools or this rectangle select tool, I can just click on any number of these districts or these counties and see what would happen if I were to put them into District 1, right? And so you can see I want to ultimately get about 747,000 people into that district, 747,199, right? So let's see how close I can get. 41,000. This gets me really close. 3,800. I'm just a little bit over my population mark. So it's asking me if I want to accept that change. I'm going to say yes, I do. And there we go. So I've created my first district. It's a little bit over the population, so I'm going to have to drill down eventually to get this closer to 0. We want to get this deviation number as close to 0 as possible. In Pennsylvania, or in US case law, congressional districts need to be to the person exactly the same in each state. So we want every district to be basically 747,199. Our old mapping platform would not allow us to do that. We had to map on census tracts, but we can actually use census blocks now, which allows you to go literally down to the block level. And this, we're talking 5, 10, 30 people in a single mapping unit. And so you can absolutely get to that 0 number now, much easier than you ever could before. So that's pretty cool. It also shows your racial background in this district. It's a very white district up in the Northwest, 92% white, 5% African-American, et cetera, et cetera. As you get into Philly, you'll see those numbers start to even out, of course. But this gives you, just kind of an idea of the basic demographics of the district you're creating. Eventually, in the coming weeks, this platform will also have election data. It does not yet. It's still being developed. And so check back, hopefully next month or December, we'll be able to have election data for you to view as well. So you can see, the results of how your district would have looked in 2016 or in 2018 will be really neat. So we looked at the point and click. Let's also look at the rectangle select. So I'm just going to grab, let's grab these 4 counties here. Oh, I want to put them in District 2. So there we go. So that allowed me to put those 4 counties into District 2, 514,000 people. We're still pretty light. I'm going to accept that, that move to see what I need to do, but I still need to add some more. So if I hover over Indiana County, this is another cool feature. If I hover over Indiana County, I can see there's 88,000 people. So let's put that into District 2 as well. And so really, ultimately, this is just going to be about, kind of playing around with the tool, getting used to its functionality so that you can create the districts that you want to create. One thing that will be very helpful is being able to drill down a little deeper into these districts beyond just counties. We're at the county level now. If I go to this zoom button up here and click zoom in, then it will take you into the ability to see block groups. So now I'm in block groups and I can pan, oops, let me cancel that. To pan, you have to be in this point and click, and then you have to hold and drag. All right, so we're going to pan around. And then, so now we're looking at block groups. And if I really drill down, then I'll be able to look at census blocks too. So we're in these block groups now. I'm going to use the rectangle select. Let's click on District 3. Let's create some people in District 3. Let's grab all these. Okay, you can see we grabbed 176,000. Let's accept that. And then you can just keep growing the number of people in that district. We're going to butcher Pittsburgh. So if you're familiar with Pittsburgh, I apologize for the moves I just make. But the tool just allows you to grab as many census blocks or block groups as you need, and you can kind of just play around. You're watching that deviation number over there. Just try to get as close to 0 as possible. So we're pretty close. Accept that. And then if we really want to get down to it, let's click on blocks, and it's going to give me a warning. Say you have to you have to go all the way down. So we're going to say start block editing, and then I'm going to zoom all the way in. It tells me I need to keep zooming. So let's keep zooming, and there we go. So now if I scroll over each of these census blocks, you can see now we're talking only 26, 200, 20, 0. There's nobody in that census block, 0, 45. And so you can start putting these people, I guess we need to move them out of District 3 to get ourselves close to 0. So let's use this. Let's put them all back into the unassigned group here. So I just assign or put them back into this top slot here. I'm going to accept that. I'm going to click point and click again so I can pan. Remember, that's your pan button. And then let's just do individual districts now. And now I'm going to watch that red number over there under District 3, 231, 196, 189. I'm just moving around. I'm going to try to get it to 0 if I can. Oops, that was too much. Let's cancel that. So it might be good to accept your changes before you accidentally go a little too far. Let's accept. All right, and so your goal is just going to be to try to get as close to 0 as possible, right? If you make a mistake, there's this undo button up here. It only allows you to go back 1, so click undo, and then you can click cancel up here. We are hoping that, oh wait, it's undo and then accept, I'm sorry. And that undoes your, or does a there. So we're hoping that they allow us, maybe it is cancel. I'm sorry, I'm still getting used to this myself. Let's double check. All right, so we want that off. Let's put it back on. accept, and then we'll do undo, accept. All right, so it is cancel. All right, so undo and cancel, and then that takes it off. All right, there you go. So again, see, it's as I'm still doing this too, I'm getting this in the new platform as well. You want to just play around with the tool so that you feel comfortable with it. If it gives you an error here, that means part of the district is not contiguous, meaning that part of it is not connected to itself. And it looks like it's this small little district, this small little census block right here is disconnected from the rest of it. So we're going to click on it and we're going to put it into the unassigned, just accept that, and then that error message goes away. So that all said, let me show you what a more complete map looks like. If I go into my first congressional map, you can see I've got a few errors over here, but this is, it's not a done deal, but it gives you a better idea of how a map will look when you're close to done. If I like a district that I don't want to change anymore, say District 2 I'm excited with, or I get that basically to 0, I can click on this lock button, click on that, and then you can't accidentally select something and put it into another district. So that's pretty helpful. That gives you a fair amount of leeway. So I think we're running short in time. I'm going to make myself available to your teachers so that they can give you my contact info. If you have any questions, I'm available to help you draw your map and then to help you enter the competition if you're interested. Yeah, we just touched on some rough basics today, but I'm very excited to see your map, and hopefully we will hear more from you as we get towards 2021 and these maps are drawn for real. Thank you very much.